You've seen plenty of videos on how to make envelopes from book pages, but I wanted to put a different twist on it, and that would be making a very large window in the front of the envelope so that you can see whatever you put down in the pocket. Okay, this was my prototype, and this is the one we're going to make today. You need 3 book pages, and I'm going to show you how to put all of that together. We're going to do some sewing and some decorating. I did this one, distressed it with ground espresso, and this one I did with black soot. They both look equally as pretty, and these can be tucked into a pocket or clipped onto a page. All right, they have a journal card in the back and one tucked down inside the see-through pocket. All right, so let me get everything we need to make this one, and we'll come back. Okay, so I have my book pages here. They're all inked up. So you want to start with one book page that is upside down, and then on top of that one you want to glue a page that is right side up, so that when you fold this up into the envelope, the text is the correct way up. Okay, and then this is one book page that I folded in half and glued and cut a little notch, and then I did some stamping on there just for decoration, and then I trimmed it so that it would fit on the back of my envelope. Okay, so but before we put all of that together, we want to cut a hole, the little window here, and I've made some pencil marks just to save time of where I want to punch this rectangle. Now, when we put the acetate on the back of this, we want to cover it up with a scrap piece of paper so that when we're putting our tag in and out of the pocket, it's not going to catch on that acetate. So I'm going to hold these 2 pieces together. We don't want to glue them yet. Hold these 2 pieces together and punch a hole through both layers at the same time. So let's try to do that carefully. And nobody's going to see this. It's going to be on the inside of the pocket, so it doesn't matter what it is. And I've gone ahead and cut mine closely to the size of that. If I have to trim it some more, I can. I'm going to lay that on there. Okay, and then place the die there where I've marked it. Okay, lay this on top. Try not to move it around too much. And let's go ahead and put that through. That off. We could put that aside and use it for something else. So I'm going to erase these pencil marks. Okay. Now while this is open, we want to go ahead and ink the inside of that window. Okay, and you can see when you close the flap of the envelope, you can still see the entire window. All right, so now let's glue our piece of acetate down. And I've got a piece here that's already cut. And I'm going to glue this down with Barely Art. And just go around the window. Don't get too close to the edge. All right, then gently place this down on the glue. Press it. Don't press too hard because you don't want the glue to squish out into the opening. All right, now while that dries, we're going to go ahead and line the inside flap of our pocket but let's go ahead and put our little closure in. And this is what I have punched out, just a piece of random something that was in my stash. And I layered it with a couple of extra circles to make it nice and stiff. Let's put a brad down through the middle, through our little hole there. You want to leave a little bit of a space inside here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my cording, cut off a little piece. This could be a little bit fiddly since it's not anchored in yet. Okay. And that gives us the space we need to wrap the cord around when we're closing it. Whoops. So now we can go ahead and lay out the legs of the brad. Tie another knot. Okay, and then let's cut this little tail off. We don't need that. All right. So another piece of scrap, anything that you want to use, and I've already pre-cut this to fit. And we're just going to glue that down, and it just covers this up. And I cut this out so that it was a slight little margin around there. We especially don't want to interfere with this fold. Okay. All right, now, before I cover this part up, we want to sew around the window, and then the stitches and the edges of the acetate will all be covered up, and then you won't have any problems getting your tag in and out. So let me go quickly sew around this window, and I'll be right back. Okay, all the stitching is done. You can see it from this side. I'm just going to mash these stitches down just a little bit so they're not poking up so high. And now we can take this and cover all of that up so we have a nice smooth entry into the pocket. Check everything from this side. All right, let's go ahead and give that a squish. All right, the next thing that we're going to want to do is turn this over to the back. And we're going to glue this down. We'll be stitching all the way around here, but let's go ahead and glue this down just to give it. Let's see. It would help if I took the cap off. Just a little thin bead of glue. This is just going to hold it in place until we can get it sewn. Okay, the next thing we need to do is all of the stitching. And you don't have to do all the stitching that I'm going to do, but it's entirely a personal preference. So I stitched all the way around the flap of the envelope. Okay, and I stitched across the top of the back and across the bottom. So you can see that here and here. Stitch all the way around the front of the envelope. This is before you close it again. Stitch all the way around the front of the envelope, and you can see that here. Once you've done all of that, then you can close the envelope, and then you can stitch from where this first stitching line is. You can stitch from there down to the stitching line at the bottom. Turn it over, stitch from there all the way to the stitching line at the bottom. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll come right back. Okay, I felt that was just a little bit of a confusing explanation. So before I close the envelope up, I wanted to show you where I've stitched. So I stitched all the way around the flap. Stitching around this can be a little tricky, so just go slow. Then I stitched across the top of this section and across the bottom. And on the front of the envelope, when we already stitched down the acetate, I stitched all the way around this. Okay, so now that all of that is done, we can close the envelope up, and we're going to stitch from here to here, going all the way down. If you want, you can leave this stitching out if you feel like you can't stitch over top of it, and then just stitch across here and then meet it. And then we're going to stitch from here all the way down, and then our envelope will be closed. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So let me go stitch that down, and I'll come right back. Okay, I just stitched from here all the way down, stitch from there all the way down, and now our pocket is closed up. All right, and we can see through to the inside. All right, now comes the fun part. Let's do a little bit of decoration. I picked these. These are from a Tim Holtz ephemera pack. I do not keep packaging, so I couldn't tell you what the name of it was. I trimmed these down to fit into the pockets, and I picked one that would show something nice through the window. Okay, so there's that. And then on the back side, I have this. I believe this came from an ephemera pack from Amazon. Again, I don't know the name. And that slips in there. And this was pretty thin, and so I backed it with some paper, so it makes it nice and stiff. And that goes in there. So let's decorate. So here's our prototype. And I pulled out a few things in advance just to save time. So picked a sticker. These are always so much fun to get off. Okay, here we go. So I had, let me straighten everything up here. We had white flowers on the picture, so I picked a sticker that had a white, looks like a rose on it. And I'm just going to put that right there. And on this side, a label. You can decorate yours any way you want. Don't decorate it at all. Just construct the base and put it in your stash to use in a journal later, and you can decorate it to match your journal. I'm decorating this pretty neutral, so it should work just about everything. Okay, there's that. And on the front here, we have a piece of cheesecloth. And some floral trim. Looks like that. It's so pretty. Okay. I'm going to get some Fabri-Tac. Put a little bit of glue down here in the corner. You want a little bit of this hanging off the edge. It looks cool. If you don't like that, then do it your way. And this trim did come from Amazon. You can buy it, I think. I don't know how much you get, but I just cut these little sections off. Whatever part of it that I want to use. So gosh, isn't that pretty? Wow. All right, so let's turn it over to the back. And on this one, I did the same stamp. All right, and then I made this in advance to put on here. It looks pretty just like it is. You don't have to put anything down there. So let's get this glued down. And I am basically using scraps or stuff from my stash. And so that is done. Wrap it around a couple times. This is elastic cording that I'm using. Okay, there's this one. So these are so pretty, and they're neutral, which is even better. Super easy to make. So just to recap really quickly, you want to take some book page. You want to lay it upside down. Then you want to get another piece. Make sure it's got plenty of text on it. And you want to put that one right side up. And I do match my tatty edges. It's just a little bit easier to put together. Glue those pieces together. Let them dry. Oh, look at that. The pages aren't the same length. Amazing. So then when you fold this up, everything is going in the right direction. Okay? And for the pocket on the back, you take one sheet, fold it in half, glue it together, and then trim it to fit the back of your envelope. And I brought mine down about 3/8 of an inch, half an inch, and then trim around the bottom. Okay, easy as that, and then decorate it any way you want. All right, guys, thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'm going to see if I can figure out how to do another project with some book pages, because I have tons of it and I'm trying to get rid of it. So thank you again for joining me today, and I hope you have a blessed day, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.